Hello, everyone. You are listening to yourradio.com with DJ Sakara, and we are about to start another one of our community interviews. And this week, we are receiving the Champ Guild of Chesapeake. And as usual, if you would like to ask them questions or forward your comments, you are more than welcome to do so by connecting to our IRC Euro Radio channel. All the details are on our website, www.euroradio.com. And as usual, I'm going to have the members of the Champ Guild introducing themselves so that you guys can recognize their voices. We have 3 people with us today. We're going to start off with Ed McManus, the infamous Ed McManus, or should I say notorious. If you want to introduce yourself, Ed.
Hey, Ed McManus. Infamous is some, famous the most.
And we have Sadist, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hello everybody, I'm Sadist.
And we have Cool Disco Dan, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Dan.
Alrighty. Unfortunately, their GM could not be with us, but I'm sure these guys will be more than able to answer all our questions, and believe me, there will be plenty. So I guess the first question, as usual, is addressed to all of you, and you are more than welcome to each answer them. The first question would be, who was the founder of your guild, and do you know what basically prompted him to start this guild? Anyone?
Pretty much it was Mikey Sarek. We knew him by Mikey. And Jughead, Quest, Saber, and his name is Roadrunner. And their whole idea was to control the champ spawns because there is such a lucrative business in doing that. And this is back in, a lot OSI and just the general game had smashed apart a lot of the big guilds, so there wasn't really any that big of an organization to do anything. So he pretty much started getting together with friends, and just anytime someone else would come to a champ spawn that wasn't in their guild, they'd kill them. And after a while, you get all the champ scrolls. You're going to be better equipped than everybody else, and just went off that.
So was Champs actually created right off when Champ spawns began, or did that happen just like, a few months down the road?
It started off just when it came out, but it didn't really. It was kind of like a snowball. It took a while to get started, but then it just kind of ended up taking over everything. And the whole concept was we didn't want a lot of people. We didn't want a huge guild like, I guess, BC and Great Lakes. We wanted a small guild, a lead amount of people to control a large amount so that everybody would get a lot instead of, it being shared so much that, nobody's really making a lot of money, making a lot of, getting a lot of items.
And so today, is your guild still mostly about champ spawns, or do you guys do other stuff as well?
Mostly it's about champ spawns, controlling the market, setting the prices for all the scrolls, and getting the harrowers and getting the stat scrolls, and controlling the price and market for that as well. Once you have that type of revenue underneath your belt, you can do many things about, reselling resources as well as artifacts, and getting more things for your players, making your guild better, stronger, so it can defend its own activities at the spawns. It kind of snowballs in that effect.
Alrighty. Just want to remind you guys not to forget to use the channel commander. Yes, Ed, go ahead.
Well, it's mostly we do the spawns, but we have our, I just like to dirty tricks, and that's Cool Disco Dan and I and a couple other people. That we just we do stuff. I guess the best way to say it is we play or grieve for fun. It's anything, our little our sniping episodes, our laying trap boxes all over areas. We do those things, but that's kind of like the offshoot of our board downtime when there's nothing There's no spawn. I don't like doing spawns, to be honest with you, and neither does Dan. So we find other things to entertain ourselves with.
I was about to ask if you guys were actually gonna hold on that one. Sadis, you want to comment? Go ahead.
Mainly, many of us like different things. Myself personally, I'm looking for the fight. Ed was saying he likes to pull tricks on people, which is his trademark. But mainly for me, for fighting many of the Champs members, prefer to do just spawns, get the scrolls, and resell them. And that's how they play the game. Not many go to Tramwell and do those types of activities. It's more fun in Fel.
Okay. I was about to ask, if you guys were, a peaceful guild or an aggressive guild, but Ed kind of mentioned that you guys wanted to control the spawn, so I guess it would be safe to assume that you guys are not nice to people that are basically not in Champs. Yes, Ed.
No, nice is not something that anyone. I mean, his name is Sadist. That doesn't usually connotate kindness, and I have my own reputation for pissing off half my own guild and the other guilds. I mean, if you just check our message boards and you'd see what they think of me. And Dan's got death threats in real life because of his activities of camping out a healer, when he knows a certain guy's there, because we like picking on certain people to the point where they kind of crack. And it's just not just the fun of doing that, it's that in the overall sense of controlling the champ spawns, we tend to kill the same person over and over again, and they tend not want to come back, and it's kind of a business, so we're not really, I enjoy doing it. Other people just do it because they're just trying to keep their, monopoly on the scrolls, so it's nice is not, it's a game, and it's a business in the same sense, too.
Jeez, nice to hear that. Sadis, go ahead.
Everybody in Champs is aggressive. Not only is everybody aggressive, everybody's required to have a red character, which is perma-red. Particularly going out and just killing people just for the sheer fun of it, aggravating people, decimating, making their morale just break down. That's pretty much what it's about. It's actually very fun.
I guess it depends on which side you're sitting. I'm sure the guys on the receiving end don't quite see it as entertaining as you do. But actually, Ed, you mentioned a few times it's a business. Do you mean it's an in-game business, or do you mean that it's like partially a real-life business?
I'd have to say both. I mean, if you put it this way, I make enough money in real life that I don't make money in UO to the point that I can sell stuff. Like when I work at my job in real life during the day, I make so much more money. So when I come into the game and I won something, I don't really feel like spending 5 hours in Doom to get it. I'd rather just pay the money, and then I get it, and then I'm happy for the next couple hours. So if there's certain items I will spend real life money on. However, there are people saying, and this is back, it would have been true of me when I was in college or in high school, or have the whole summer free, where they don't have the ability to make that money. Well, if they could do spawns all day, protect, so you have 4 or 5 120 scrolls you don't need them. So you can sell them you can sell them on eBay, or you could sell them for UO Gold, which translates to real life money. So if the person's on a lot, they can make real life cash, and that's why you control the spawns. Me personally, I don't want to make money. If I do make money in UO, actually, but it's not because I try to. It just happens. I happen to make it. But my whole point is for fun. There are other people that they didn't mean this to be a business, but it just if you're successful in the game and you do a lot of spawns, you're going to make money. So once you start making money going outside the game, it's a business.
I see what you mean. Sadis, you want to comment?
There are quite a few different people in the guild who actually profit quite well in real life from what they make in the game. That's how they make their living. That's how they actually support themselves. A few very successful people. It's rather interesting how they turn this game's items into real money. It's very interesting.
Yeah, I've been hearing some figures that people make off the game, and it just like boggles my mind every single time. But hey, more power to them, I guess. Um, Now, you guys are basically trying to get this control over champ spawns and whatnot, but I'm sure you're not getting a free ride through Feluca. So who, I guess, which local guild would you consider as your biggest threat or competition, or the one giving you the hardest time all around? Yes, Disco Dan.
I don't think there's skills that kind of come together here and there, but nobody really does that much to where it's a huge problem where it impacts things. For like about, I'd say 2 weeks, pretty much every guild on the server allied against us, and it was kind of a time where we were a little bit broken up anyway because a lot of us had gone to other shards and things like that to work on other things. That was a bit of a problem, and now that's completely split up, and there really isn't that much. You maybe have 4 or 5 kids that run in, but can't really do that much.
See, Ed, go ahead.
Yeah, it's a nice cycle. Like I told you, how we, our membership fluctuates. We kick out people that are not beneficial and aren't very funny. We have a couple people like Dwarf Paymaker. For all effective uses, he's just worthless. But he's Brazilian and he's very funny, so he will always stay in the guild. But normally we'll kick out people that are just completely useless and they're not funny. And we will, then after a while, the amount of people we've kicked out or that just generally hate our guts to no end, they'll get together and they'll get a big guild and they'll start attacking us. And then we all have to go and fight them, and then after a while they quit, and then we rule for a couple months, and then it happens again. There's some people who were kicked out, or some people came over from other shards, and they fight us again. So it's kind of this, people get sick of us making all the money, and when we're truly the only one monopolizing, we'll drive the prices to pretty insane amounts. And I guess that they're irritated at that they can't get in on it, and then they decide to kind of rally against us.
Well, yeah, Cetus, go ahead.
You also have to think about the guilds that come from other shards who want to prove their ability to beat the best, and they get their butts whooped, and we send them back home crying, and it's wonderful because those are the only other type of exciting moments we have other than the normal everyday people we fight every day after day. And it's rather fun when they do, and we invite anybody to come over and give us some excitement.
Well, it's kind of interesting because every time we have interviews like this, we hear like totally different story, I guess, from the current guild being interviewed. Just recently, I believe it was last Friday, was it? We were interviewing the X Guild, Deus Ex Machina, also Chesapeake, and from what they were saying, they were giving you guys a run for your money. Yes, cool, Dan.
They allied, they were running in with groups of about 50, and we had about 10 or 15. If they didn't win here and there, then there'd be a real problem with them. But as of the past 2 weeks, they haven't done anything. They've lost pretty much everything.
So basically, you guys don't really consider that you have any guilds on your current shard that represent any form of a threat to you guys. Yes, Ed?
Well, I mean, you have to, look at the way I said it. There were 2 guilds. It was DK and X were the 2 guilds that got together, and they would recruit everybody they could find, and even brought people in from other shards. And their goal was to dislodge us. And like I told you, our goal is to control everything. And so what that means is, when they do a spawn, we raid them. And we're successful when nobody gets spawns off. Now, every once in a while, in 4 in the morning, there are sometimes losers, for the most part, that get 20 people and will go and do a spawn. There's nothing we really care to do about it because no one's going to stay up at 4 in the morning on a consistent basis to do it. And that will be our biggest problem because it's just retarded. But these 2 guilds, they would field 50 to 60 people, and we were in the process of invading another shard, Great Lakes, and we're in Chesapeake. So we had to reorganize, they were taking advantage of, the stealth archers and this kind of stuff that I had actually been using on them for months. They finally got enough guys that it's difficult to deal with. We know how to deal with it. It was difficult at the time. But the only thing they were able to do was get their own spawns off. They were not able to stop us from doing our spawns. So the tide slowly shifted. We, got some old members to become more active, get back in the game. And then we started, slamming down them because we had 10, 15 people fighting 50, and we were barely losing. We were losing for a while. But it's much like everyone else I told you. What they'll do is they'll be upstarts. They'll do well for a while, but to actually win is they'll have to take control of every spawn every day and do it for a long time. And nobody's been able to do it because when you fight in these big battles, there are winners and losers on both sides, but the losers on either side will have to lose a lot of money. And that's usually what happens is they may have 50 guys, but 20 of them are going to lose a lot of money on a daily basis, and after a while, all their equipment's going to drop, or they're going to have no money, and they won't fight anymore. And that's pretty much the war of attrition we use on
them. That would definitely work. After a while, people can only take losing so many times. Yes, Sadis, go ahead.
Yes, consistent control of the spawns over a period of time is what's key here. You have a guild like CHAMPS, which is just nonstop aggressive, nonstop returning to the fight, regardless of the numbers, until finally you're going to wear down, as I was saying. Eventually someone's going to run out of gold. Someone's going to lose their equipment and then be out of the fight for a few days. All those things, really play a huge role in deciding who's going to keep control of the spawns in general. A guild come out and only control for 3-4 weeks is nothing compared to the 3+ years that CHAMPS has been in control. And that's a key thing to keep in mind.
Go ahead, Ed.
Yeah, and I hate to say such a thing of someone that I at least admire partially for fighting us, is that there are people that we're fighting that are legitimately good, but there are a ton of clowns, no better word for it, for people that you'll see that they have pathetic weapons. They stink. But the problem is, like, one things that I've had, like this guy Elwood or Valdemar, I'll kill them, and I'll kill the other guy, and then I'll go attack another guy. And as I'm killing another guy, they're resurrecting the guy I just killed. So when you get outnumbered to the point where you can't kill them as fast as they get resurrected in their low agency, it's a pain in the butt for about a couple of weeks. But right now they're really starting to hurt because a lot of their guys are out of money. And when you consider, like I told you before, why CHAMPS is we want to be small. So we have good players in a small amount, is that we can share a lot of these 20 power scrolls. When you have 50 people and they get one spawn off, and I can tell you that I've done so many spawns where I've got nothing. Well, they got to share that 20 with like 50 people. So they might get 1 or 2 20s, and it's got to be shared among 50 people. And if you think about the money you made with that scroll and the money you lost defending it, it's not worth it for a lot of these people. And so we know they're going to quit. It's just a matter of time.
You were talking about these people, how they have crappy gear and not that much skill, but, at the same time, you have to give them credit for at least trying. And, you will not get to that lead equipment or that high level of skill unless you start somewhere. And even all you guys that rule now, I was reading your history at the very beginning when you were talking about how, you lost so many things, especially since there was no insurance back then, there was no bank box back then, you died tough cookies, you lost everything if you didn't make it back to your corpse and whatnot. But, you got to where you are today because you tried for a long time, and it's pretty much the same for them. Go ahead, Ed.
Well, some of them, like I said, some of them have good skill, and but there may not be a chance because they never had the opportunity, or because they are greedy and they steal. There's plenty of them. One person, Demon Slayer, big thief. He was in our guild. We kicked him out because he stole from him, and so he's a good player, but he's a moral character. He's not there. So you have people like that are in that big guild, and he's good. I'm saying, but there are a lot of people that are just, I know they're trying, but I'm saying sometimes the question is whether or not they're actually, is there a threat? Are they worrying us? No, But to be honest with you, frankly, I think we're better off winning and never fighting. But that bores a lot of people. So for everyone else, it's great because they get in fights. Me, I don't care for fights. I had, you can rebuild your equipment without going to champ spawns. It's just kind of the same song and dance. We'll hear, well, we're going to beat you, we're winning, and then they don't post anymore, which is kind of where we're getting right now.
I see. There is another question I wanted to ask you, and it's not only, it's something I read on your boards, but also something that you commented about, as these people start losing so much money to the point where they can no longer afford insurance, and, some of them lose their items that way. But you also made a post on your forums where you basically said, your items drop, tough cookies, don't expect them to be returned. While I agree that somebody who runs out of insurance, if you're stupid enough to be in foul with, some Uber item uninsured, then, it's like, hey, you made your bed, deal with the consequences. But there is such a thing as the insure bug, and some people have been losing some really good stuff, and they had plenty of gold in the bank, and it just should not have happened. And so do you still consider, your items drop because of a bug, because of something that should not have normally happened, not because through any fault of your own, and do you think it's still cool not to return their items, knowing that this might happen to you too? Yes, say that.
Well, pretty much it all depends on the person that dropped the item. If you have people who are respectful, who are cool in game, who don't talk a lot of smack, and they drop an item, you're more apt to give it to them regardless of the situation. Insure bug, lack of money, whatever it is. Generally, if I respect someone and I pick up an item, I'll insure it for them and give it back to them. I've done that quite a few different things. But there are also people who are just complete, they're very rude to you and very disrespectful beyond the norm, the normal game, smack talk. And it ends up being something you don't want to give it to them because they don't deserve the respect back. And sometimes that's the issue.
I can understand that. Dan, did you want to comment, or has what you said been mentioned before already?
Pretty much the exact same thing. It depends 100% on who the person is. I mean, if my stuff drops, I guarantee you they're probably not going to give it back. The same thing with Ed. But, I've given items back, and then a day later the same things happened, and the same kids jumped out and said something or other, you know what I mean? So it's kind of, I don't know. Most of the time, if it's somebody respectful, they definitely get it back. It just kind of depends on the situation and the person.
Okay. Go ahead, Ed.
Well, two things. One, I never give anything back if I can help it. Just because, for instance, Dan and I played the sniper McManus characters, and we killed this guy. He dropped some of his stuff. I picked it up, Dan picked up. I said, Dan, don't you give him a damn thing back. Dan, being nice, moment of weakness, gave some of his stuff back. I'm later standing around, I'm fighting someone else, and this guy comes right up behind me when I'm low and stabs me in the back. No joke, with a DP Chris, and I nearly die. And I start cursing at him because I know this piece of junk. This is why I never help anybody, because unless I know them personally in the guild, or they've really been nice to me in the past, or they know someone that I know that has been really nice to me, then it would be on a personal. But as a guild policy, no, nothing is to be returned, just because of that stuff happens all the time. People, it's not, you can judge someone's character, when you make them desperate or you make them powerful, and you see that most of the time you don't see anybody's character. And the second thing about the insure bug is that I've never known anybody to drop any items without any good reason. I dropped my ring of Vow because I was picking it up, and I was in the process of putting it on when I got killed, and that will sometimes drop on the ground. But what I was told is from these people that people use EZO Medic and use these other things, and when they download it from the wrong site, I went and looked at the site, and the guy said who made it actually said that if you download some scripts, there are scripts that are out there that uninsure all your stuff. So people cheating may have all their stuff uninsured and it's some sort of cruel, ironic fate by someone who put that out illegally on the web. I don't think that's very nice for that person to do, but at the same time, they're cheating. I really don't have too much sympathy for that either. So generally, I don't care why, because I know I will never see it. It'd be hard to even half my guild would give it back, but that'd be the only people.
Yeah, well, I know that there are scripts out there that do this. I know someone that lost everything, Orny and Quiz, you name it, because he ran a script that had that bug, and that just like not only did it uninsure his stuff, it uninsured his stuff, it removed the stuff from his body, because he was actually sitting at the bank when he ran the script, and it just bagged all of his items and dropped it to the ground. So he got pwned by his own stupidity for, running illegal stuff. But the bug does exist. I remember my owning quiz. I was in Doom and died, and my owning quiz remained on my corpse. And I flipped out because naturally nobody would res me. And I never ran so fast to the healer and back to my corpse, naturally getting robed a million times by the spawn. Eventually I made it back and grabbed my stuff, and just to let you know, my gloves were still insured, but on my corpse. So, yeah, I grew a few gray hair on that one. Yes, Ed.
Sometimes people do have these, there are the bugs that are just unexplainable. I've seen stuff where I walk around and I die for no apparent reason. And I can't even stress the amount of bugs that over 8 years that I've encountered. Stuff that, God, I could just scream the amount of stuff I've lost in this game due to general stupidity. But the unfortunate thing is that these things are worth dollar amounts now, and so when people pay for them and they lose them, they're really not happy. I've lost, if you saw that history thing, I lost my freaking Viking sword to a rat that hit me and killed me in one hit. This was an Easter egg thing that some GM thought was pretty funny. So it's kind of like it's in the game. So that may be a bug, but it happens to everyone. You will get screwed eventually in the game.
Yeah, and that totally sucks. But moving on, are you guys part of any alliances? Because you did mention other guilds like X, for instance, allying with, I believe it was DK, to defeat you guys, and a bunch of other guilds trying to ally to fight you. But have you guys ever allied, or do you consider allying, or are you allied at the moment? Yes, Sadis.
No, CHAMPS does not ally with anybody. We can handle our own and take care of our own turf. We are strong enough, confident enough, and powerful enough, and rich enough to take down whatever threat solo by ourselves. We do not ally. There's been 2 or 3 occasions in the past when only 1 or 2 of us is on, and 2 or 3 of another guild has been on, that we've raided a 3rd guild, only to kill our allies after it and take it all in the end anyway. But no, we do not ally.
So basically, because this is something that we see. I mean, I look on my own shard from time to time. Like with certain enemy guilds, let's say we have a common enemy, and we're like, okay, this one is a bigger pain in the neck. So I was going to use a different word. Sorry, but yeah, they're the bigger pain. So we're gonna temp truce kind of thing. It's nothing formal. We just don't attack each other while we're spanking that 3rd guild, and once that 3rd guild's been taken care of, then we turn on each other, and may the best man win. So I guess that's what you're referring to, right? Go ahead, say it.
As is apparent now, we are the guild that everyone allies with to fight against. We're never on the other end of it. We are the guild that people want to take down, and we decimate everybody. So they ally against us, never us against them.
Alrighty. Actually, Ed, before you end that, actually no, go ahead, answer that, and then I have a question for you from a lady in IRC. Go ahead, Ed.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Say we are the common enemy, and the thing is that it would completely ruin the concept of champs if we ever allied. You know, we'd rather lose a spawn with less people than even to ever say, oh, we needed help, because that would show that the only thing that we ever need to do is get our members online, because they tend to they tend to play other games like World of Warcraft. They tend to play 3D shooters like Battlefield 2. I do this when there's nothing to do. There's no one to fight on. We just kind of lay around. But if there's something to fight, we're all more than happy to scrap.
Alrighty. There's a lady in IRC asking me, well, she said, ask Ed if he remembers Mara Rose. Paragon is her guild title from CM. I think you brutalized her or something.
If it's the person I think it is, yeah, I do. Just I PK'd with her a long time ago. 4 years, 3 years, something like that. 4 years ago.
Oh, he's so charming. And, well, next question. What are your recruiting policies? If somebody wants to join your guild, how do they go about it? Yes, Sadis.
Well, first off, you need to have someone in the guild sponsor you. You have to do a lot of fighting. You have to be good at PvP or valuable in some other extreme, like being an incredible healer or something, but you have to know how to fight. First off, you get someone in the guild to sponsor you to even set up some duels. If you duel a few of the members and they talk good enough about you, then the leaders in the guild will catch wind of it. And then the person who sponsors you pretty much would, well, the person who wants you to get you in the guild would then put up a poll on the website for the private, members. And then we take a vote. 70%, 75% have to agree. And then the guild leaders will then duel the person, see if they're good enough, see if their attitude's good enough. And then maybe they're put in a guild. Mikey, Sarek, he's the one who makes the final decision. If he says no, they're out. No questions asked ever again. Otherwise, you're in, and you get pretty much a little while to do things with us and see if you're good enough. And then people are asked their opinion, and after a while, if you're well-liked and you do well, you just pretty much stay in.
Well, it always kind of, I don't know, when you have a guild that is very elitist, I guess, about recruiting, and then is also pretty much set on slaughtering everybody that is not in your guild, how do you bring new blood to FAL? But Ed, I think you wanted to comment first, so go ahead.
No, you can go ahead with your question.
Well, yeah, it was pretty much that, if you only allow someone in your guild if they're good PvPers, and at the same time, anybody else that's not in your guild that tries to venture in FAL, or at least in champ spawns, you pretty much wipe out. Where's the incentive for, let's say, Trami to want to become a PvP or a Falucan because, if you kind of suck at it and you're still just in the process of learning and you basically get massacred every single time you try to venture there, it will pretty much discourage you right away. So isn't it kind of hard to breed new PvPers when you go about it that way? Go ahead, Sadis.
Well, you're either going to get better or you're going to get really, really pissed off that you die so much, and it's going to put you in a frenzy to make you want to get better. One of the incentives is so that you can prove yourself on the field and have a champ like a guild like Champs notice you, have you come in, and you have all the benefits of doing all the spawns, getting everything you want out of the game, then having the freedom to do so without obstruction. That's one of the incentives. And you have to be good, and if you're not good, you're going to get good if you want it that bad. And that's what Feluca's about, is a fighting aspect. You have factions, you have the murdering side, you have the non-criminal side, all that. The stealth archer, it's all great, it's all fun. And in order to really enjoy it, you need to be good at it. So that's pretty much it.
It's a way of looking at it. Go ahead.
When I came back, I stopped for a little while, and It was really hard because I didn't like wearing armor, but that didn't seem to bother anybody that didn't wear armor. They'd still kill me on sight. They'd try and kill me on sight, or did kill me on sight. So you kind of have to adapt. You just say, well, I'm going to have to fight 10, 12 people. I'm going to have to raid them in and out. And it's weird. Some of the people that are raiding us now in X and DK may actually become champ members later, and we will get to see how good they are. There's some real, absolute peonic kind of people, like DMX. There are some people that just use character templates that are buggy, I guess, for this right now. And but there are people who you see that are legitimately good, and you just kind of feel bad for them. You hate to have, you like killing them because they're good, but you hate to have to see them fight on the other side. And so these insurrections always end up, we'll end up losing some of our champ guild members because maybe they didn't live up to their expectations, and other people will sometimes come in. I mean, that's the kind of world it's, if you're coming from Trammel to Fell, you just prepare to fight everywhere you go. And if you walk around blue, you're probably not respect. If you walk around as a red and try and fight people, try and duel people, that's one nice thing. Just go out and duel people. I don't like dueling because, I pretty much play with the mindset of there'll be 4 or 5 people fighting me, not one. But that's usually the best way to get into the things, is start coming out there on a red, start dueling people, start killing people. People respect you, and then you'll get looked at.
Actually, something you mentioned was kind of part of the next question, and it was because you were mentioning there's certain people that you really hate seeing fighting on the other side, and I was about to ask you, what about former members of an enemy guild, that wants to jump ship and join your guild instead? Let's say somebody from X that says, that guild's not for me and I would really like to join CHAMPS. What would be his chances? Yes, Ed.
There are already people doing that, and we usually say no, because chances are there could be a spy, or we don't think they're that good. But later, at some point in time down the line, we remember that. They might get talked to. We don't really like pulling people in the middle of the fight because, see, that would be a desperation kind of move, and so it rarely ever happens. I mean, the only way it may happen is if that member was friends with somebody in our guild right now. And we do have times where we have one friend in the guild and the other friend is in another guild just because they're not good enough. And the person has to make a decision. You have someone like Applejacks decided to go with his friend, and now I take a personal interest in making his life miserable, and so does Cold Disco Dan. We will kill him with every chance because he chose his friend, and he didn't. And it's not wrong, I think, because he made us an enemy.
Fair enough. I have a question for you here from Viceroy, as a matter of fact, and he would like to know whether you guys do any kind of real-life events or if you guys get together in real life. Yes, Sadis.
Oh, yes, definitely. Mikey, our guild master's a DJ, and he invites everybody out to where he is in New York and go out there and hang out. A lot of the guild members, a few of them actually, Cotton Eye Joe, for instance, takes trips around the country and visits different people he likes to meet inside the guild, and he's like, hey, I want to meet you in real life. You're really cool. And pretty much he visits people like Laird and Aviserts and quite a few other people, actually. Lots of events. Even Mikey meets up with the guy from, I guess, Warchild from the old BIC guild, and they did parties together. I guess he's also a DJ, and the guilds would get together with lots of things outside of the guild game itself.
It's pretty cool. Yes, Ed.
Yeah, I mean, I've gone to some of the UO meetings just because they're interesting. I like to see the people you killed. Some of the people are your friends. I know Cold Disco Dan in real life. He's in Maryland with me, and so I know a couple of people that I had actually 15 friends playing UO when it came out, and pretty much most quit. But you can't. It's kind of hard to avoid people I guess when you play in a guild or you're playing a game with them and you spend any hours as you do playing UO, and they happen to live close to you or you're traveling to that city, it's just kind of like, why not just meet them?
Yeah, even though some people kind of like don't want to mix the game with real life, but yeah, sure, why not just meet them? It's actually pretty cool to finally meet the real person behind the character. Yes, Sadist.
It's interesting because I've met a couple people in real life that I'm friends with now because of the game. I was in a guild, and one of my friends, his name was Cancer in Game. I ended up finding out that I posted on the website that I was going to be playing a gig up in Massachusetts, and come to find out he lives 2 minutes down the road from me, and we became real life friends. And he's a cool guy, and we hang out as well and play the game together. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's indeed awesome. Now, I guess my next question, as far as your, in a way, as far as your recruiting policies go, would be pretty much, what do you think makes Champ different from all the other FEL guilds, and why would someone choose to join you guys rather than some other guild? And, I don't mean just the fact that, because, I'm figuring you guys are probably going to say, like, well, because we own the shard kind of thing. But, I mean, beyond just whether you're successful or not, because success is always like roller coaster. At some point you're at the top, and at some point you're at the bottom, and it goes up and down. But why would somebody choose to go with you guys and tough it out even when you're down, rather than some other guild? Yes, Sadist.
Well, first off, the people in the Ventrilo are absolutely the funniest people in the entire world. You'll never find a funnier mix of people in a Ventrilo. You just crack up. You could just sit there not logged in game and just hang out, and they're just so gosh darn funny. And that's one of the reasons. Second off, you got the overtime success, the things you go through. You work together with each other. You have questions. There's somebody in the guild who already knows it. It extends beyond that. Like, for instance, we have computer technicians pretty much in the guild. You have problems, they help out. Spend 2 hours in Ventrilo channel by yourself just fixing computer problems. I mean, you get a lot of support outside in real life for things like that. If you're down and out, someone will talk to you, as well as we'll pick on you too if you need that, make you laugh about it. We're almost like a big family, but it goes a little more rude in the aspect of we'll find your weakness and you'll find your spot. We'll make you a nickname, and you kind of end up being picked on for it, and you feel like you're in a group of family. That's another thing.
That's pretty neat. Yes, Ed.
Yeah, I do a lot of the picking on, and like I said, Dan and I, mostly me, but we'll do the picking on. I'll make the guild bios for you. If you've seen Sadist, I got his picture and said, this is what I think Sadist would be like. I made the bio, and some of them will like it, others won't. But the funny thing is that they know that, yeah, I may be annoying, Dan may be annoying, because we're probably 3 most annoying people in this guild. We're all kind of annoying, but that's nothing compared to what the other guilds think of us once we're unleashed on them, and we're not kind of being nice. We're full force mean out there.
Well, based on your website, I never would have guessed you like picking on people. Not. You are quite abusive. But actually, before we continue with the questions, I just want to remind the people that are just joining us, or that recently came in, that we are doing an interview with the CHAMPS Guild of Chesapeake with Ed McManus, Sadist, and Cool Disco Dan. Now and if you guys have questions or comments, you are more than welcome to post them on our IRC channel. Now, actually, the next question I have for you guys, do I want to go to that? No, I don't want to go there yet. I'm going to go for this one instead. On your forums, I was reading that you guys decided to go stretch your legs on Great Lakes. Whatever prompted that? And it's like, how many of your members decided to go on that little trip to another shard? And is that still happening right now? Yes, Goldiska Dan.
The Great Lakes thing is kind of a, I don't know, I guess it was kind of a side project thing at first, and just the numbers there are absolutely incredible. I mean, you'll go do a spawn with 10 people and get rated by 40 plus easily. You'll just find kids doing things there that are just it's incredibly gimp in one way, and then in another way it's kind of cool. I mean, I would run out into mag in the middle of absolutely nowhere and get res killed by just some kid that has been sitting there for easily hours just waiting for everybody, and just it's just really, really hard to deal with the numbers. But I mean, I think we're going to go back over there and just kind of give it a go again pretty soon.
Okay, go ahead, Sadist.
Well, pretty much one of the things was there wasn't enough action or activity on Chesapeake to keep us satisfied. A lot of our players were just not logging into the game because it was boring to play. There wasn't anything going on. So Great Lakes was a push to help bring back those members, as well as to renew activity for excitement with PvP, have fun elsewhere. All those things were a factor with going over there. The numbers was an issue once we got over there because we were severely outnumbered regardless of what we did. So we got 15 people and there were still 50 people against us. So it slowed down a little bit, but that was the main reason with the GL.
Okay, so that didn't quite work out, and you guys are kind of considering going back with greater numbers at some point? Yes, Sadist.
I'm really not sure what Mikey has in store for that for the future. It's kind of like we're seeing who's going to play over there, how much we can do. You got to feel out what you can actually accomplish. But I'm not sure what our guild master has in mind just yet.
Okay, so I'm assuming that, since you didn't have like that many numbers over there, that the vast majority of your other members remained on Chessie, and so that you guys were basically active on both shards at once. Is that correct? Yes, Sadist.
Well, pretty much. It's just a thing where a lot of the main characters went over to Great Lakes. We sent a bunch of them over, but when it comes down to it, the people who can actually physically log on at any given point in time, who are prepared and ready to play over there with LRC suits, with enough resist and mana regen to get right back into battle. It's like we still only get 8, 10 people who are available to go there who can effectively do anything. So it's a matter of that. We have secondary characters on Chesapeake, so things aren't quite as strong over there as they were. But things are starting to balance out. It's just a matter of every time you make a large change like that, especially when you're trying to operate in two fronts, it's going to put a strain. You have to adjust to it and adapt. And once the adaptation process gets fully taken care of, people get their suits, get established on both places, everything will smooth right out. I'm sure of it.
Okay, go ahead, Ed.
Yeah, you can ask Donald Rumsfeld how hard it is to run a war in Iraq and Afghanistan at the same time. It's not easy.
Okay. Actually, well, sorry, my mind just totally went blank there for a second. Yeah, okay, I know what I wanted to ask. I was actually wondering, besides doing spawns and whatnot, have you guys, I don't know, tried factions, or do you guys do IDOCs and stuff like that? Yes, Sadist.
Yeah, we did do factions. We actually started up a factions guild to make sure we can control the vendors for regs and whatnot. A couple of our members make a huge amount of gold, and which translate into real life cash actually by reselling regs. We did that to kind of keep the resources coming. We were also involved with a lady named Ivana who was helping us along. She was doing factions for the same reason, reselling things. So we did indeed put a push for that. People got really upset with us when we vote them out, though. I really myself wasn't too much involved in it. I'm not the quite real person to ask for why or what we're going with factions as of yet, or as of right now. But that's what we were doing originally.
Okay, so but do you? Yes, Ed, go ahead.
Just say, we tried them. It's just so a lot of places we need to be at once, and there's really not a lot of that many people fighting factions. IDOC is one thing we absolutely love doing. Roar, God bless him, how he's able to find as many IDOC as he does. But we'll pretty much take the whole guild, camp out an IDOC, and we'll call in the snipers, and we will pretty much make sure that when that house falls, we take everything that fell. And I think the last one we got, I think the total for the whole guild was about 80 million worth in gold of stuff that dropped. And coming from someone who's lost his castle before, I can tell you that, yeah, a lot of stuff can drop in one of those houses that you wouldn't even imagine. And it's, and we pretty much do anything we can in the game that either fun, player grieving, or makes money.
Well, at least you get your grieving fun and your PvP action and loot. So I guess, yeah, it would be an all-around win on this one. I'm sorry, I'm just like reading some stuff in IRC and I'm kind of cracking up.
Yeah, the one things we've done. I mean, like sometimes someone will get banned, and there are people friended to the house, and they'll keep trying to get into the house because they know it's going to drop, and they're trying to get in the house and get their stuff out. Well, literally, I've stood in the house with Callisto Dan, and we've shot the person with our snipers, or we've killed them with our PKs for hours, keeping them from getting in there. And they pretty much go bonkers when they can't. Their stuff is in there, and we won't let them in there. And as far as OSI is concerned, they're not going to do anything. So it's kind of like UO, as I've always said, is where a bad guy can win.
Unfortunately, that's why the good guys need to step up a little more and, start kicking some butt. Seriously. But, you were talking about, when we're talking about you guys going to Great Lakes, I think at some point right before that you guys had mentioned other guilds coming to your shard, and as far as I recall, EFL did not visit Chesapeake. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, they did not visit Chesapeake. But how do you guys feel about visiting guilds like that? Guilds that basically hop shards looking to basically take over, but also not only that, but I guess the question is probably broader in the sense that I would like to know what you guys think about guild hopping, shard hopping guilds, rather, whether they come in to help some other guild fight, their local wars, whether it's people going across, different shards just trying to recruit new PvPers to their own guild because, they've already used up the local pool of PvPers, or, all the better ones are either already in their guild or in enemy guild. And then, guilds like EFL who just like go from shard to shard just for the heck of whooping everyone. Yes, Sadis.
Well, what it comes down to is excitement. Change. We get to whoop some new butt. We get to have our veteran members who haven't played as much come back and get back into it, and we get to listen to them laugh again as we decimate another guild. As for them coming over to help other guilds against us, that makes us only feel like we're stronger, we're better, because you have to call in more people to take on a group that's smaller than you. And we enjoy it. It gives us big egos. That's why we do it more and more. We have fun fighting the mass numbers on Chesapeake. It's our home turf. We control it. And we welcome other guilds to come over. A lot of times, one guild will call another over from another shard, and within a week or two, the other guild has gone back to their shard because they can't take it. We're just too aggressive, and we thrive on it, so we welcome it.
I figured you would have said something like that. Yes, Ed, go ahead.
Well, I mean, it's not like we don't lose ever. We do lose. It's just we don't lose wars, so we lose battles. And so I just don't think people that we're invulnerable. I mean, that's commonly, you'll hear these things that people say, like, oh, you think you're the greatest thing, you can't lose. It's like, we do lose battles. It's just about winning the war that we care about. And like I said, at the war of attrition, when you take skilled players who are very rich, you play a war of attrition, we can't lose. We won't. We just don't lose because eventually there's just not enough money to go across. The amount of people that it would take to invade our shard to knock us out will be an amount that they would just have to lose a lot of money, because even when we lose, there are heavy casualties on both sides, and we make sure of that. And we go to the extra length that we hang out at their guild house on our little sniper characters, and we'll start picking off guild leaders in front of the whole guild. That pisses people off, and we'll go and we'll kill their horses just to be that jack. I mean, we harass them and fight them at every point that we can. We don't, just if there's 20 of their guys on, we only have 3, we're still going to raid them. We're still going to attack maybe one guy and kill him over and over until that person quits the guild. And you just keep doing that until their numbers are at a point where our less numbers can handle. And X and DK are kind of getting into this right now. They've had a significant loss of numbers, and they're trying to recruit, but those people that see that know that they're pretty much going to end up the same way. So UOF is one from Great Lakes that came over. Our Lake Superior came over and pretty much suffered the same fate. They just couldn't handle the amount of, dying. They won their battles. They're probably our best challenge, but they lost a lot of money.
Yes, Sadist, go ahead.
We have egos, we have pride, we don't give up, we're relentless, and that's the key to keeping control over a long period of time, just being relentless. And that's what we are. We'll hound you in any way we can, just as I was saying, at the banks, at any gates, we're due delay spells, 5, 6 of us cast a delay spell while you're in guard zone, and then they'll bail. 250 points of damage later, you're dead and you're in guard zone. We laugh. And after 8 or 10 of those, you just kind of call it a night, and it's fun. We love doing it, and it will never stop. So guilds have to keep that in mind.
It's just, I don't know. I just find it interesting that you guys just so totally want to drive people away. Doesn't it get boring after a while? I mean, because this is probably the example I give very often, and it's the situation that we had on Atlantic, where we had an alliance that was just so powerful at some point that we pretty much controlled all of Felucca, and most other guilds just dwindled to the point of being all but inactive, and we could do Oaks and Harry's 24/7 with at best 1 or 2 crashers, and we got bored out of our wits. It was just plain retarded, that to the point where we were trying to start fights among ourselves because there was just absolutely nothing to do. And it's like, don't you get to the point where if you drive everyone away like this, it's just boring? Yes, Sadist.
Well, yes, that's part of the push for Great Lakes, was to keep ourselves, honed and active on the shard as well. But you also have to keep in mind, no other guild out there has half a dozen to a dozen members who can support their families off the kind of money they make from this game. So why not have, part of the guild who loves to just kill people and decimate people, do that while protecting your assets of getting scrolls, selling them, getting real life money, and actually living. So that's one thing. Even though you get bored of there's no fights, you still have the people out there, and many people who make real life money, and they continue at it because that's what they're doing, and it's fun that way.
I guess that would work. Go ahead, Ed.
Well, I mean, I'm never really bored, to be honest with you. I mean, Dan and I played 7 years together and something like that, and we're never really bored. We can take a break because we may want to do other things in our lives, but there's always somebody out there to mess with. There's always someone out there, because remember, we don't have, I don't know how big your guild was. You didn't tell me, but your guild was probably rather big. You have a big guild, and you have all that stuff. It gets bored. You have a smaller guild. We can't check everything all at once, so we got to check a lot. But then and I'd say we control 99%, and that 1% that we leave open, people are constantly trying to get in because they eventually do. And the greatest thing is when we go and raid a little tiny role-playing guild that's trying to do their first spawn ever. I mean, we'll make it fair. We'll all come in polymorphed as ogres or chickens and fuck them. But because it's sure we have a sense of humor, and but we won't. get to the point that it's boring. I mean, do you think it's boring where we go and do the Tremolite stuff, and then like we go to Doom. I really don't know what all the Tremolite stuff, but I'm guessing is going to Doom and making Taylor body count. We do that stuff when there's nothing to fight. But I'm telling you, as soon as someone sees a spawn that's not being done, there are always going to be people that want in on that action. And as soon as they're there, then we got to fight on our hands.
Well, I guess as long as it remains entertaining, then sure. Yes, Sadie.
It's always entertaining. Like I was saying, we would do things to make it fun for us if we were bored. At the new guild, we'll, for instance, cast all demons, summon all demons, and change the demons' names to our own name, and have polymorph the demons, and go walking up there with a whole bunch of demons, and watch people freak out, trying to say, "Why isn't my Demon Slayer weapon working?" All that kind of stuff. It's just funnier than heck. So even if we're bored for a week and we have this guild come in, try 3 spawns, and we beat them that way, we get so much enjoyment off it. It's just not even funny.
Jeez, I feel the love. You guys actually make me want to hop over to Chesapeake and just like bring an army and just like kick your butts around for a few minutes.
It's
just
fun.
because. Oh God, you're like so totally asking for it. Yes, Ed, go ahead.
Well, like Dan and I, Kaliska and I do things. We're just so obnoxious. I go around as a lord always. I am always like Ed McMahon III. I go lord, basically saying, "Look, please," and I dress in red. "Please come attack me. I want here to attack." And it is arrogant, and I know this, and partially it's in real life, but it's mostly the game. And what we like to do is just antagonize people and bait them into fighting. There are people who literally, for the sole purpose of trying to kill me, or say Sadis, or say Dan, there are certain people, you just have your enemies, I guess, that really hate you. And just like you kind of feel like this, imagine people that have been on this shard for 6-7 years, and they hate my guts to no end, and they find out I'm doing something somewhere, and they'll just bring everything they can, and we enjoy that. We enjoy one of us fighting 3 or 4 other guys, and beat them, and sometimes we lose, but even if you lose, you really haven't, because they still took 4 guys to fight you. And when you go and you resurrect, you get back and you come on. If you find any one of them, as soon as you look at them. I mean, for instance, this guy Sebastian in DK, he sees a one-on-one, he goes running the other way, calling for other people to help him out. Just basically, that they gotta. It never gets old, it never gets boring, and we like it. We want the more people on us, the better, and we'll start wearing it down.
But your playstyle clearly is griefing. Does it ever bother you the thought that you might be really upsetting some people in real life because of the playstyle you've chosen, and that you could effectively drive people away from the game because of it? And does that bother you in any way at all? Yes, Sadis.
Well, my motto is pleasure and pain, it's all the same. Sadis is the name of my game. And pretty much you want to come, you take the chance. There's people out there who might get discouraged, but there's also people out there who are going to get fueled and flamed even more to come back and get that fury and take it back out on you, have revenge. And they're the ones who actually become some of our most fun fighters, and they eventually get in the guild because they get so worked up and so into the game that we just find it hilarious. And, that's kind of something that comes to play too.
Okay. Yes, Ed.
Well, I'd be lying if I said I didn't want anybody to quit on account of me. There are people that I'm like happy. This guy, Draglever, I'd be happy the day he quits. He hates me. I hate him. He takes things out of the game. I stand at his house, waiting to kill him for 20, 30 minutes. I've waited for him to walk out his house to hit him with this, 2 arrow shots. But most people I don't want to quit. It's just certain people that have made it their mission to make me miserable, so I make them miserable. And if they quit, I'm disappointed if they did. I mean, they should continue. It's great. It's more fun than any other game that you could play because you have the same enemies that are out there every day. If you play a 3D shooter or something, it's always some random guy. I know in the game, I know if I find this guy, it's like that's the same guy that I hate. And I mean, if you think of that, like Cool Disco Dan, nobody knows the story really. I mean, maybe a few people, but Cool Disco Dan was just friend of this guy named Brooklyn LOM. This was like almost 8 years ago, and I was talking to this guy, and then I started to attack him, and we started to fight Brooklyn, and Cool Disco Dan jumped in and killed my PK. It was in stat loss. I freaking died and lost 20% of my skills and stats because this jerk jumped into a one-on-one. Now, it wasn't a duel or anything. He just jumped in, and I didn't think he would. But I died, and so I came right back with another character. This is just when poisoning was invented. And I hit Dan with a DP blade, and this is when it did 25 damage per second. Dan recalled. A year later, I meet Dan, I see Dan in real life, and he tells me that he died to that DP on top of the bank intrinsic, and all his stuff rotted. And he was really pissed at me for that. And I was so happy because I had fostered a hate against him, and then we became great friends after that. So it's like, I totally hated the guy, but the second he became a friend and we could play together, I dropped it. You drop it all. It's not like, you shouldn't it's a game, and you shouldn't take it so seriously that you want to get something in real life. I know it feels like that for a little bit. Dan and I have both broken keyboards and monitors on silly stuff, but I know that people are doing it, and they shouldn't. Nobody's come to my house to try to kill me yet, if that makes it simple for you.
Maybe they just haven't found the address yet. But anyways, you were mentioning something earlier about you guys in your griefing tactics that you would use your snipers, camp at their guild house or houses or whatever, and use your snipers. I'm assuming by snipers you're meaning stealth archers.
Yeah, Disco. The first person that we ever saw this was this role player, if you could think of all people, Scotia. They were in this vampire role-playing guild. And I used to run around on my Axer, and I actually made that Axer because Axers were killing my mages, so I've adapted. And I thought it was pretty cool, but they would always wait to kill me. At the last second, I would be, half life, third life, and they'd hit me with a bunch of arrows. So I sat down, figured out how to make 2 stealth archers, and that would do an incredible amount of damage. Now it's pretty complicated, and it's not cheating. It's just the way the game mechanics are set up that we figured out how to do it, and it takes a lot of expensive equipment and specialized jewelry, and putting your stats and skills a certain way. And we made these 2 characters and named them Sniper McManus. And pretty much, if anybody's witnessed this, we've come into a guild. There have been 8 people there, and we'll drop all 8 within about a minute. And it's pretty cheap, I admit it. But it is funny, and that's why we do it. And it's demoralizing. You have a whole guild, screaming and cursing at us, and we keep new res killing them. We keep killing them on site, and it's just, you do it in the game, and you expose it, and then hopefully OSI will fix it. But Dan'd probably be the best one to ask about our little exploits on that one. He plays the sniper a little bit more than I do lately. But yeah, it's a player griefing tactic where and we call them snipers. It was a stealth archer was just someone that would come out and take pot shots at you. We call them snipers because in one shot from each person we'd drop anybody.
So I guess my next question would kind of be in line with this, and it basically will tell you where my mind is at on that topic. But how do you feel about the state of PvP as it stands today? And do you feel there are imbalances or classes that are overpowered? I certainly do. But what's your take on that? Is PvP running the way it should, or does some major tuning, or is some major tuning required ASAP? Yes, Cool Disco Dan.
I mean, it's got to be tweaks to archery. Archery is way off the charts, and it's way too fast. There's some other imbalances with, basic healing with, 200 decks and you have kids running around with 1 second heals in dog form. You can't do a single thing to them, but they can't kill you, but they still run around like crazy. The biggest thing is archery's got to be slowed down, and stealth archers have to be nerfed a little bit. And honestly, the worst thing I've seen is smoke bombs. It's just a stupid thing that they put in.
Amen, brother. Amen. Yes, Ed, go ahead.
I mean, I'm sure there's people giving me a lot of crap right now in IRC because they know we're the biggest exploiters of smoke bombs, of archery. But we admit it. That's the one thing. We know that it's cheap. We're telling them we know it's cheap. We're not telling them it's our skill. All we want is just to kill them. I mean, we're not trying to say, yeah, we owned you because we're better. They're kids who think, for instance, this absolute mental midget of a man, Bilbo, will tell us that we have no talent because we use these stealth archers. Yet he will run around, and this is kind of funny, firing shots like thud, 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 chasing you, and there is no way to get around it. And that's kind of the reason why we can't have the stealth archers, because they're snipers, because we just get sick, because I try to fight them on my, Dexter or a mage, and you're chasing them, and they're running the opposite direction, firing arrows backwards, and they kill you. And you're just thinking, how am I supposed to... That's not fair in PvP. The death strikes, I don't know if... I fight a lot of people sometimes, and you'll be running, some guy will just run up and death strike you with a little tiny dagger, while another guy's firing moving shot arrows at you, and there is no way. And I have 120 on one of my characters now. I have 120 parry, 45 defense chance increase, and I get just worked over the racks on that most of the time. I mean, so I have to memorize which characters have those cheap kits so that I don't have any, so I know to maneuver in a way which they can't get me into a position where I'm just going to get killed like that. It kind of stinks that if we wanted to, I could change every one of my characters to a game template. I'm assuming OSI will change it, but if you look back the entire length of this game, they're always from the halberd, explosion e-bolt mages to back when I used the paralyzing blow, Valorite spear, vanquishing spears. They always have a very cheap way of working this game, and it's just, like you said, it's a roller coaster with the P versus P. But very occasionally does it actually balance itself out.
Well, right now, it's not looking up on that front because archers are already out of control and they're getting a lot more love with the new expansion. So I don't know. I'm just kind of flipping out on that one because, already armor ignore stealth archers are like pissing the hell out of me. And, it's like you get hit, they drain all your stamina, not to mention 3/4 of your life, and you can't even run to cast a greater heal, not even a small heal, because it takes forever to cast anything now, and with insane decks they can just like fire non-stop at you, and the first guy that hits you in armor ignore, you just know you're going down no matter what, unless you're really lucky that you're, say, standing by a building and you have high hiding, then you have like half a chance to maybe hide there, but chances are you're going to fail anyways, so you're a goner. Kind of, it gets under my skin. Does it show? Yes, Sadis, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with you totally 100% with all the imbalances with the archery, stealth archers, that kind of thing. With some of with the poison as well, it's a little crazy. Sometimes they're casting the thing with magery, and chivalry right now, they haven't fixed that yet, so you can still cast mage spells faster. A lot of imbalances, but until they fix it, you have to keep in mind that it's part of the game, and until they change it, it's always been part of the game, and utilize what you can within the game to defeat your opponent. I think it's rather gimp myself, but I try not to complain. It does make me mad, but I expect it, and I laugh, because sometimes it's funny how they do it. You get dismounted, this guy flame strikes you, this guy mortals you, this guy armor ignores you. It's just funny, the combinations, and you just have to laugh about it. And until they fix it, it's part of the game.
I guess it's just really hard to laugh when, God forbids you step in you, and before, you've no sooner walked out of the moon gate that your screen suddenly goes black and you see the "you're dead" message, and you're like, what the hell? And, you just hardly have a chance to see, like, 3 stealth archers going into hiding, and you realize you've just been dropped before you even, before your screen even had time to render. And you're like, what the heck? And these guys are gone before anybody can do anything about it. So, yeah, kind of sucks. Yes, Ed.
Well, yeah, that's exactly what Dan and I do. We do it with just 2 archers, though. See, most people like 3 or 4. You can reveal them. We actually have a character, Sheriff McManus, that actually I've been able to counter these stealth archers and kill a lot of them. But it's still very difficult to get, you can't just have these counter snipers, as we call them, going after them all the time. But to think that they're going to add poison-tipped arrows and quivers so that you don't have to go back and get arrows, you can just get res. Yeah, it's, the things that I think is like not allow archers to fire backwards if they're running forwards. Make it so that smoke bombs can not be used for a certain amount of time. And also, the biggest thing that would make it so easy is allow area effect like Earthquake to hit these people, even though they're invisible, because you can be on screen and the guy's there, but you can't reveal him with the spell. You can't, the best you can do is cast a poison field, but I can tell you with certain outfits that I use, that you can be DP'd, and with enough hit point regeneration, you will not die. And you can just stand in a DP field the whole time. So, I mean, there's always ways to work around. As long as someone can hide and you can't, you should be able to area effect and hit them. And that's my only contention, is just allowed, because there's no reason they should be able to stand there and not be hit. You just stand there, Earthquake every red to death that's hidden. I think that'd be a lot better and fairer than the way they have it. Because right now, I didn't say, I thought of this stealth archer. I didn't think of the stealth archer, but I did come up with, this sniper technique, and we perfected it to the shard, where on Chesapeake, and kind of like you have on your shard, that, yeah, I know, anybody that walks out of the gate, they know that we'll shoot him and kill him instantaneously. And you have these just, I'm trying to think of a word for them, just meatheads, like Vaughn will just stand there, and this guy, Vaughn, will just stand there and yell guards for hours, just waiting for one of us to hit someone in the guard. And that's what it becomes. It's that they're so paranoid that they always call guards, hoping that we mess up, and we almost never do. But that's where Peever's P is, in the fact that a guy literally stands there yelling guards all day, because that's his only defense. I mean, he's not very good, but I mean, he calls guards for everybody else. So you can see where that's really not where we want Peever's P to be at. Thankfully, I don't think there should be guard zones at all in Fel.
Yeah, I know what's actually making my day right now is just running around with my detective and revealing the heck out of them, and then seeing them run, like I let them hide, and as soon as they hid, since they have the delay before they can hide again, I just detect them, and then, we just like beat the crap out of them, because, oh god, I just can't stand like any of the GIMP templates, just like annoy me. Yes, Sadis.
See, now you're seeing where we come from, the griefing type style of play. You're enjoying trying to track them down and give them grief and kill them. We're the same way. We just broaden out to every other character out there, not just these stealth archers.
Yes, Ed.
Well, like, one thing I'll give everyone a hint out there, because pretty much I'm secure in the way I work with my sniper, that I'm already 2 moves ahead of everyone. But one thing you can do is, for the getting rid of these archers, is you have a necromancer with 120 spirit speak, 120 necro, and you walk around with the detector. You detect them, and cast strangle on them, and cast revenant, and you just run after them, and they will die. They'll run themselves to death. Because if they do what I do, they go to ninjutsu form, and you lose stamina very quickly. They'll run themselves to death. And so we're able to kill certain people over and over and over again. But that's just, that's all you can basically do, is dedicate somebody or another guy out there to track.
Is there anything else that you guys feel is overpowered in PvP, or that needs to be fixed, or otherwise, other than the archers? Do you guys feel that everything else is pretty much the way it should be? Yes, Sadist.
I personally think that a change with the way delay spells with mages should be made, such as, someone can cast an explosion, and before the first explosion gets off, they're already getting a flame strike up, which means they've already hit you with 2 explosions and a flame strike before they know they've even attacked you. Which to me is kind of bad. You need to, if someone targets you for anything, you need to just make it flag immediately so at least they know. Because what it does is immediately has a mage get a third of your life off without even know they're attacking you. In case with myself, I play a red character. A blue mage does that. I'm at a severe disadvantage, and I think that needs to be changed as well.
And how about factions? Do you think something can or should be done about factions?
Well, I'm not really part of factions, so maybe Ed could probably handle this a little better.
Yes, Ed, go ahead.
I never really cared for factions. I always thought factions was a way of bringing reason to mindless violence. I liked Fell just because everybody just ran around killing each other for no apparent reason, just to fight. And, it was just murderers roaming the countryside. And then factions kind of gave people, let's fight for this, fight for that. And then, then I realized you got to stay up all night to protect a freaking sigil. No, I'm not doing it. I mean, if they make it for 2 hours in a day during prime time, say some really big prime time fights, that would be maybe fun. But nobody wants to stay up for 2 hours. Oh, one final thing is the ultimately retarded laying bag balls or camel bras down. And that just drives me insane. It's just laying stuff down so you can't walk through it. I mean, there's certain things that OSI needs to make that, if you're on a horse, you can step over a rat because it's kind of small or it's fun. It's just, and the boxes that people, that's why no one does factions, because what happens, you go to take over a faction base and there's 50,000 boxes with logs in them and you can't, you're staying there trying to pick them up while you're getting killed. That's no fun.
Yeah, that's probably one of the biggest issues I've always had. Not so much with factions. I stopped playing factions ages ago. I think I stopped factions way before AOS. It was really ages ago when I stopped factions. But that whole thing about the push through rule in Feluca, that makes absolutely no sense to me. Is that whole thing? A rat can block you when you're on a horse. Come on now. It's like your horse would trample it. It doesn't make sense. Or a rabbit, or like one of those tiny snakes outside Fire Dungeon. I'm not talking about the giant snakes, that I can accept. But to have, one small, tiny, puny snake block you when you're on a horse, that's like so totally illogical to me. But, oh well. But yeah, I know what you mean with all the blocking. But at the same time, it's strategy, I guess as long as they leave that, that notorious path in that setup that they have, then it's in a way fair game. But you guys do harrowers, don't you use bag balls or candelabras or whatever to kind of block off access when you're expecting mass amount of crashers? I mean, it would make sense, especially if you have many entrances to cover. It would make sense to reduce accessibility for your enemies, and between bag balls and energy fields and whatnot, then you would have a much better control. I just think it makes sense to do that. Yes, Disco Dan.
I mean, a lot of that stuff, I think you can block off most of it if you felt like it, but all except for one tile. Otherwise, you can get paged on for it. But I don't know that I've ever seen us do that. Everybody's into field fighting, and everybody's throwing fields and doing exactly that. I've seen other guilds do it, but it's just kind of, I don't know, it's just cheap tactics, really.
I think it's kind of hilarious that you would say that. Yes, you do need to have, actually you need to have more than just one tile. You need to have a path that's, one tile wide at least, but there has to be a way for whoever you're blocking, there has to be a way that, if using pathfinding, that they could actually get out of whatever maze of bag balls you've set up. So that's the only way to do it, not to get, paged on. But I just think it's interesting that you would say that, that it's kind of, gimp or lame, when you guys are pretty much into griefing, or at least some of you guys are definitely into griefing. But, I guess it depends what kind of numbers you get coming at you because, if you have like 50 people coming at you and there's like 10 of you defending it, wouldn't it make sense to just put the chances on your side better rather than, leaving it wide open and leaving it in a weighted chance? I mean, it is strategy. In every warfare, you've always had people set up traps for enemies and whatnot to make their advance harder. Yes, Ed, go ahead.
Well, two things is that, like, one, GMs are, like, when our guild is, as you know, probably gets a lot of pages on us for stuff that we're not doing illegal, just annoying. And but we're doing it in the aspects of the game mechanics, so we're trying to just win the game. And if we did that, and there was any hint of us cheating by completely blocking it off, which, that would be the tactic, like you said, then it's more trouble than it's worth to worry about whether or not the GM's going to call us and say we're cheaters and start banning people, or the GM's going to do something like take the heroin, drop it on all of us, and kill us all, or because they've done that. Or if, once we kill them all, we can't figure out how to get away. And if you leave a path, well, what does it matter if you leave a path and then we fill that path with 20 people in Wraith form and using area effects? Well, that's not going to... There's still no way in. I mean, we've had that done to us, and we may have, during that battle, we may have gone in, take the bags, and reordered it. But it's not that it's so much... It is cheap, but it's more of an irritation, and we can do the same thing without being called cheap or cheaters by just being an organized guild.
Says the sniper. But yeah, I mean, it is fair to do that. You can have a path and energy field that path, so in effect you totally do box the man, but the path is there and the field can be dispelled if they survive long enough to dispel it, and you have the right to block the access to that path with by standing in the way or by putting pets in the way or whatever else. It's basically all fair game. Yes, Sadis, go ahead.
We'd rather not be bothered with all that. We just pretty much, stand there and take you out straight up, no questions asked. We have enough people who complain about our tactics and think that we're hacking, cheating, lying, stealing, doing everything under the sun to make themselves feel better. We don't need one more thing added to the list. So we pretty much do most things straight up. We'll use fields, we'll use bodies, we'll use horses, pets, we'll use, summons, we'll use all the stuff rather than using boxes and crates.
That's fair enough. Personally, I have to agree, though, that I rather not having all that gear laid out because, in the end, it can actually play against you. If you need to move around, you may be the one boxed in by your own stuff. So it's a double-edged sword. Viceroy, I think you have a question you want to ask. Go ahead.
Actually, I got a comment, and I'm just kind of curious as to how you guys feel about the whole rule even being there to where you have to have a path open. I mean, do you think it's a fair rule? I mean, considering this is Felucca, Me personally, I don't think they ought to have a rule like that. I think if you want to block out the whole, the whole yard or whatever, you can very well go ahead and do that. I think it's kind of stupid when EA comes in and imposes rules on Felucca when it's pretty much fair game, or should be at least. I call that tremolization of Felucca because, you got people whining about, because in real life, are you going to whine about what somebody else does? I mean, if they're using their brains and actually blocking off an exit? I mean, think about it. I mean, in the real wars, they set up barricades and stuff to, and you got to break through them. You got to get through them. Yes, you're going to experience casualties getting through them and everything. I want to know what y'all's take on EA rules, being there in a, facet like Felucca. I mean, this ain't Trammel. I can understand if it was Trammel, but this is Felucca. Go ahead, Ed.
I'd say if we wanted to, we could make it impossible. I mean, it would be impossible to get it if I was allowed to do what I wanted. If I wanted to take a whole bunch of boxes, put 400 stones worth of logs in every place and block off the entire thing. It'd take a lot of time to do it, but I mean, I could make it so you could not get in the dungeon. Now you can't get in the dungeon. So I understand why they do it. I don't like it. I think I should be able to do whatever I want. I mean, there's a lot of things that aren't even close to doing what I'm saying now, is like shutting down part of the game so people can't access it. There's things I thought were pretty funny. You know, we would take gates and we'd open them up in front of moon gates, you know, or in front of banks, and people would run in there and they would come into my castle, and then we'd kill them in the castle. And we put boxes around where the gate was coming. Now we thought that was funny, and that was like, ha ha ha, you went through a gate, now you died. Or, you know, we killed people, we would gate them off to a one-tiled island so they couldn't get off and just leave them there. Now see, that was in the game. That was more, you know, ha ha ha, funny, and, you know, we got you. Whereas opposed to that, it's kind of like, well, people are paying to play the game and they can't get into a dungeon. You want to be able to say, I really want to be able to say that's okay, but having seen a couple times when people execute it properly, you literally can't even walk into the dungeon. You can get one tile in, and there is no pop, because you can't even pick up the boxes, because you can't drive them across server lines. So there's just no way to get in until GM removes it. So it's cheap, and I just prefer that you can just stomp over them. It's just their own errors in programming, I guess.
Yeah, but, I mean, really, how do you feel personally about EA imposing rules on Feluca? I mean, do you think it shouldn't be there, or you think it's perfectly fine the way it is? I mean, that's what I really want to know, is how do you feel about EA coming in and say, hey, you can't do this, even though Feluca's supposed to be anything goes, you know? At least that's how I take it, you know. I don't know how you feel about it. Ed, do you want to comment on that?
I was going to let Sadis go, and then I can go after him.
All right. Go ahead, Sadis.
Well, pretty much, I agree with you. I don't think there should be any rules at all. I mean, they're doing a few things to make it so Tramelites will feel more comfortable going there and have at least some semblance of reality that they can handle. They can't handle Fel. Fel is supposed to be, you know, open, you know, all-out war. Go for it. The fact that you can't, like, loot bodies that are blue because you didn't kill it, I mean, that's crazy. We used to go gray for doing that and invoke a fight, and that's what was great about it. That's what Feluca's about, is starting that type of confrontation and conflict. So I don't like the fact they're putting rules at all, you know, such as blocking the passageway. Well, you do it with bodies anyway. You know, you can drag an item and stand on a tile that you normally teleport through, and you can block a way out. There's other ways of doing it. So I don't see why they should have any problems with allowing it. They should just let it reign free.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. And go ahead, Ed.
Well, this is one thing I read from the expansion, the criticism. This is what they said, what is it, April 2000 is when they came out with the OR, and it says Trammel was born. And they said it was argued that the creation of Trammel signaled the end of traditional realism-oriented UO, where all characters were subject to being murdered and robbed. And my thing for why I loved UO and why that was its heyday, the best thing, is because a lot of people in Trammel get bored, and they look for excitement, is because in Trammel you can't, I don't know how you die, I don't know how you lose any items, I don't know how you do anything, you screw up at all. In Feluca, the joy of that is that it's a constant struggle to get stuff, constant struggle to stay alive, and you're constantly gaining stuff and losing stuff, and you gain at a slow rate. It's kind of a rate you're really going to get where you want to be by being in Feluca. But the fun of the game is just trying to get there. And by putting in rules where they make it like the insurance, I mean, it's nice to have all those weapons, but by putting insurance, you just, every time you lessen the fact that kill what you keep, you can do what you want. It's kind of free will. And now in Feluca, there's a lot of things you can't do. You can't do this. You can't kill people in this zone. You can't kill people there. You know, it used to be where you could attack guards, and the guards would come running after you. You could actually get away if you outran them. But it made the game that I remember, the way that I liked the most, was when you always had to risk something to get something. And the thing is, a lot of people in Trammel don't want to risk, and you come here and you expect that. So no, I don't like EA imposing more rules, because that's, if you want to play with 100% security, play in Trammel, because that's where it's 100% safe. Feluca, you're supposed to be able to be scared, risked, and sometimes just outright defeated because someone had a better plan than you, and there was no way you could win. It's an unfair game there, and that's what makes it fun.
Yeah, very good point there and everything. Did you say you read this description about Tremel off the back of the expansion for UR? Is that what you said?
It was just a critique of it on a site I remember I was looking at, and that was one of the main complaints, is where it was the end of traditional realism-oriented duo where all players were subject to being murdered and robbed. And that was a fun thing. It's like, if you really want to be safe, stay in a town. But in AD&D, like the Dungeons and Dragons and all the video games you're thinking of, what was the point? You know, it's like those games where you can just constantly continue the game, but you can't start over. You know, it's better when you have a game you have 3 lives, you know, and if you screw up in those 3 lives, you don't win the game. Here, you know, Tramel's where you can keep screwing up, you can keep dying 50,000 times, and here, you know, I liked it better where you could lose stuff by being a complete failure. If you did well, you gained stuff, and it's now that some people can be completely safe. The idea of me going out to a dungeon was supposed to be scary to me, that, oh no, I could lose my stuff, oh no, I could get attacked and killed. Anybody that dies in Tramel, with the exception of losing Connect, is an idiot. You should not die in Tramel. Not with the amount of people you have there, not with the healing, not with the crafty AI monsters. There's just no way you should die in Tramel to a monster.
Yeah, I totally agree. And yet, you know, you see a bunch of people still die to this day in Tremel, you know, time after time. And yet, well, I won't even go there, but, you know, I'll go ahead and say this one piece. It's what I've seen in Tremel is people go in there, they make the same mistake over and over, yet they'll do the same exact thing that got them killed the first time. And it's like, you know, you do the same exact thing, and yet you're expecting a different result than the first time. I just don't quite understand that, and that seems to be a very familiar sight in Tremel. You know, you see people doing the same things over and not learning from it. I guess that's what frustrates me about Tremel more than anything else, because whereas Feluca, you learned from your mistakes and you had to adapt. To be able to survive or grow in Feluca. That's how things were in the old days. You had to learn from your mistakes and adapt, or otherwise you were miserable. You know, go ahead, Ed.
Yeah, it's one thing you learn. It's like Sadis will tell you, you don't stand around the U Moon Gate at all as a red. You don't stand around anywhere as a red, because this is what's happened to me. I felt like Rasputin. I got dismounted, corpse skinned, strangled, bled, DP'd, and they're dropping spells on me. And I'm trying to run away, trying to figure out how I'm going to get back to my mount, or I'm going to live, and I'm parrying, I'm healing, I'm thinking, that was really stupid. I just went to talk to someone, and I will not stand at the gate and go, you know, hey, how are you doing? That was just stupid for me talking. And you learn, don't stand around where there are stealth archers, where everybody's ready to drop on you, and you learn, don't do it again. Or you learn to see certain guys that are these rather gimpy, you'll see a pair that'll follow each other, an archer and a death strike guy. You know that you don't want to fight both of them in that environment, where there's going to be trees for you to run in, and you won't be able to run in a straight line away around corners. There's no way to combat that. So you learn, don't do it. Tramelites, I can watch them go and get killed with the same thing over and you know, there is no other word for it. Someone who does something, fails, does it again, fails, does it the same way, is called an idiot. I mean, there's no other way around it. And you know, but the thing is, they're not losing anything. Once you start losing things, you'd be amazed by how much smarter people get.
Exactly. And with that said, I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Sakura. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alrighty.
Thank you.
Geez. Actually, while, you know, we're talking about all that stuff, you know, about the way they're changing things to, you know, tramelization in a way of Feluca in certain ways. Let's talk about the one thing that is all Feluca, and which is the CHAMPS spawns, and how you guys feel about the way CHAMPS spawns are currently being done, and that really has not changed in the 3-4 years that CHAMPS spawns have existed. And do you think we are due for something new to be added to the CHAMPS spawns? And do you think that the new spawns being introduced by the Mundane Legacy are going to affect the Fel spawns, even though those ones will not have power scrolls per se? Yes, Sadis.
Well, just to touch on one point of that is that any changes with the PvP weapons is going to affect anything with champion spawns. You know, if you think about it, anything that can overbalance or push a new type of idea that's really powerful, is going to affect the PvP aspect of defending as well as raiding a spawn. So that in itself will be a huge effect.
Yeah, but the thing is, in a way, like, I don't know, you guys are basically doing spawns a lot. I would say probably 24/7 or almost, between all the fighting and whatnot. But, when do you get, because you were mentioning how you're trying to control, I guess, the price of the power scrolls and whatnot, but how long can you go on controlling it once the market gets saturated, Because I'm sure you guys have been doing this since pretty much the beginning, and there was a time, I remember the time in the early days of my own guild when I would sell at 25 stats for almost 15 mil, and now you barely get, 2.5 to 3 mil for it. So, how much longer before it's down to 1 mil for 25 or 500k or whatever? And so, what do we do about champ spawns at this point? Yes, Ed.
Well, that's really up to UO. I mean, but they're not going to let that happen. See, when the ninjutsu and what's the other thing? Ninjutsu and Bushido came out. We sold 10 million, 15 million for those things, and now they're worth like 100k. Mage and Eval, I think, are always going to be worth a lot because they are important to mages, and everybody loves mages. But I'd put them all first. You'd be an idiot to do or it's just a real waste of time to do a spawn in Trammel or Ishnar, or wherever they put those things. But without power scrolls, I just find a complete way. I hate doing spawns, but I mean, I do them because I want the scrolls. But it'll just be more spawns for us to check. It's going to be a pain, and but it's just going to be the same thing. People are going to want, the market will be, I want the scroll. There'll be your Tramelite people who have, and believe me, they're Tramelite people who do nothing but taming. I would shoot myself in the head if I had it. It's just taming and tailoring and smithing. That's all they do. And what they like, having all the cool weapons for when they go out, or having 120, whatever the spell weaving, whatever new power scroll they're adding. They're going to want that, and they'll pay any amount for it. So they set the market prices. The first ones that go out are going to be 50-something million because it's only, and if Champs is locking it down, like we probably will, almost assuredly will, then yeah, we're going to be able to, whoever in a guild gets it, and then what do you think 50 million gold will buy us for what we don't need? So eventually all our guys will have spell weavers and all those people, but it'll be to the point that, and then as soon as that gets boring and the prices go down, just like, then you will come out with another expansion. And they like the power spells because they know that keeps the reds occupied instead of harassing Tremlights for the most part. So I just see them continuing to add more 120, more skills, and if not, they'll just increase the skill cap to make it 125 skill scrolls. There's really no end to it if OSI wants to keep it going.
Well, the only thing I see about that is, granted they have the new spell weaving skill that they're introducing. I think it's the only new skill that they're introducing this time around, if I'm not mistaken. But, we look at Bushido and Ninjutsu, the price on that plummeted, in the 1 year that the expansion was out. And for this one, they're having only one new skill being introduced, and I honestly don't see all that many people going for spell weaving, as, maybe not as much as we had people going for ninjutsu and Bushido in a way. So I don't really think it's going to be one scroll that people will really be going nuts over 120s for, and so we're pretty much going to be stuck with the stuff that we already have. And is this the future of champ spawns, that the value of whatever scrolls we have will only depend on whatever new skill they decide to put 120 with every new expansion or whatever? Because that's a pretty limited, I guess, way of expansion for it. Shouldn't there be like maybe new items introduced to it? Yes, Ed.
Well, they are introducing new items, and they'll come in Doom, I think. And there's also the gold sinks now that will increase. Now, if you remember the zoo that they'll be putting in, that'll increase the value of gold because people will want the artifacts. They'll just seek to keep donating money to new zoos. So there'll be less gold going around because of this. Furthermore, they're not only adding disposing 20, they're adding like lumberjack plus 20 and a couple others, tinkering and boyercraft fletching. I can guarantee you people want 120 boyercraft fletching and the other ones. Those probably be skill based, but those are still ones that they will look to add. And as soon as those things are on the market, it's an economy, so everything interacts. People will always want Doom artifacts. They will want 120 scrolls. People may not want to buy them now, but if they can get their hands on something else, we're not changing the prices. We're still going to charge whatever we want for the 120, minus what somebody, let's say, on Takuno in Japan could farm a 124. If it's cheaper for them to transfer it over here, then we have to go less. But if we can, we're still usually better than someone else transferring scrolls over here. So we sell it for a certain amount, and these people will make money in their other ways, like getting these other artifacts. So I mean, it's an economy, and when we monopolize one area, as you know, if you play any game, or with U.S. Steel or whatever, once you monopolize something, you can pretty much dictate from that what else every thing is going to cost, and that's economically, it's the best way to keep a guild alive. If you think about it.
Actually, a question about all that pricing thing. Do you guys have like a guild, a price chart for your guild where you're basically telling your guild members you do not sell, say, a 20 majory below, 12 mil or something? Or is it pretty much, you leave it at every member's discretion? Yes, Sadis.
Well, actually, our guild master sets the prices. He gives us a list of what we sell each scroll for to the public and what we sell to the guild mates for, as well as stat scrolls, what you sell on a vendor. And we're strict about it. If you're caught selling things less than the price you're told, knock it off. If you get caught again, you get booted from the guild. Because that's how it keeps it fair and not greedy. If you get your own personal profits easily enough, because things are at the prices that we set. Things are fair. If you can't sell a scroll, our guild master will buy it from you at a certain price, and it's already pre-dictated. It's very, very good, actually. And yes, he does set all the prices for us.
Okay. Ed, go ahead.
Yeah, it's like any federation. We have prices. It's kind of like a union. There are people, Havoc, Demon Slayer, one of the other people, cheated these systems, and that's why they get booted, because they cheat. So it's not like we set these arbitrary prices and it's not followed. It's strictly followed because, like I said, I always want to sound like the Sopranos. We're running a business here, not a social club. It can turn into that, but when the fundamentals behind the whole guild is control the champs, ergo champ spawns, and everything entailing with that. I'm allowed to I do my movies, I do my things and my dirty tricks, but at the end of the day, they still make me check the freaking spawns, and I still have to go and sell by the prices. So it's the fundamentals are the controlling a major part of the economy, if you will.
I actually had this question to ask you, and I don't know where it came from, but it just suddenly popped in my mind that I had forgotten to ask you about that. You guys say that in order to control the spawns, you check every altar fairly regularly, but I was wondering, do you guys use ghost cams, or do you physically run to every single altar, or, do you have stealthers? How do you go about that? Yes, Sadist.
Well, you have people like myself. I personally, I'm all set with scrolls and whatnot, and what I want to do. So we have people like myself, the Reds, who will constantly check spawns. The Blues are required as well. But like me, out of boredom, I will just go through the spawns nonstop and find people to kill. And so I'm constantly checking the spawns. So that right there is one thing. We are required, for instance, if I'm checking a couple spawns, say I'm checking Marble Down over to to tourists and all that stuff in Del Ice, I'll say, hey, listen, I'm doing these ones, and then someone is expected, and it's a big thing. You are expected to offer. If someone mentions it, you do it. If you just checked them 3 minutes ago, you do it again, and that's the whole thing. Every 15 minutes we're running through a spawn, regardless of whether we're assigned to, whether we're doing it willingly, or whether we're just, we're doing it as a group because we're trying to start all the spawns to see which one is, which one to do, or whatnot,
Yeah, I understand what you mean. Ed, go ahead.
Well, as you know, we don't want to tell you everything that we do because we don't want to make it so easy to fight us. But we run through the spawns. Generally, every 50 minutes, we will be at a spawn. But we also have people that just sit there. I'm not going to even name him because he's a nerd of all nerds. But they sit there with five accounts logged on with ghosts there or stealthers, and they just sit and watch. And that's all they do. And there's the exorcism spell, but you know what? You exorcise the ghost and people will know you're there. So, and then they want to make it so ghosts can't see. So we'll just put stealthers there, or we'll just stand somebody there. And then just wait till we don't check them illegally. We check them totally legally because, believe me, if we did anything illegal, if you think there's anybody that the GMs would be watching, it would be us. So the thing is, we 99.9% of the time, everything is, there are people that do their things that they shouldn't do, but 99% of the time, we're there watching it legally in one way or the other, because the other guilds we know are doing very dirty things, and it pisses us off because we know they're doing something illegal because we know you can't do it a certain way. We know all the methods, so they sometimes do little interesting things so that we can't see what they're doing, or when they would check spawns, but when you're under scrutiny, the GMs know one guild, people complain about them, they'll watch you. So that's why we're usually doing it the old-fashioned way. Every 5 to 10 minutes, sometimes 15 minutes at the most, we're at a spawn checking it.
Well, I'm sure your enemies are feeling relieved to know they have a set 7-minute window to get a spawn completed. Oh well, okay. Sadis, go ahead, and then Viceroy has a question for you guys. Go ahead, Sadis.
It's funny you would mention that because there's actually been a guild, BIC, who would actually field enough people to complete an undead spawn in 7 minutes. We've seen it done. We've checked, told someone we checked it, been there 10 minutes later, 8 minutes later, and it's finished. Done, start to finish, scrolls, gold, gone, everything, gate up. It's just amazing that some guilds have actually gone through that much effort to work between our checking the spawn schedule. It's funny.
Okay. Yes, Ed.
But so that's why if we know it's a certain spawn to be done quickly, we'll check them. So.
Were you done, or you wanted to add something?
Well, put it this way, you could have people that there's enough spying going on both sides, so we know what's going on. Everybody is involved in this little war and knows what's going on with the other side.
Okay. All right, Viceroy, go ahead.
Sure thing. Basically, I have a question which I ask everybody, which we always have on radio for an interview and everything. And this is, if you listen to my past to our past interviews of other guilds and everything, you'll probably already know the question. But the question I always ask everybody is pretty much, would you play on a pre-R shard if EA were to introduce a pre-R shard? And I'm kind of curious as to whether or not you would, or you don't like the idea, or whatever. All right, go ahead, Sadis, or Sadis, I'm sorry.
That's all right, no problem at all. Yeah, I definitely would. Definitely go back to the days when I could, maybe have a vanquishing weapon, have my invulnerability armor, and whomp the shit out of people. And then pretty much take care of it that way and have the little fun we used to have.
Yeah. What about you, Ed? Would you go back to playing a pre-R shard if they were to introduce a, EA shard?
Yeah, I almost certainly would. I just, And pre-UOR was just, I mean, I could go on for, I mean, if you see the movies that I've made on eurochamps.com, you know a lot of the most my fun thing, you know, the fact that these actually could steal your stuff, steal it. I mean, not just steal gold and rigs, I mean, just steal your weapons. From PKing people and getting the bounty system, which was probably the coolest thing to come into a town and see, oh, look, I've, you know, most people, you know, most murders, you had to post on this site, you know, people and no trammel, which is just absolute most disgusting thing that ever has been created. You know, 2 Vespers, 2 Britons. There shouldn't even be a trammel. They should, you know, they could at least have remapped it, you know, made different cities. But no, it's really one group of cities and your dungeons. You don't need to have the, you know, repetition. It's just retarded, and everyone that probably plays this game thinks that a little bit. Isn't that a little stupid? And how hard it would be to rechange the maps. So, you know, it's so many things that, when, what's his name? Is it McFarlane? No, not McFarlane. Richard Garriott designed a game that he had him really on, and a lot of politicizing of, let's make it safe in Care Bear land for everybody. It takes the realism out. Yeah, they may complain, but you know, they kept paying, they kept playing the game. They may complain, but people will complain the game if they lose stuff because they want to get it back and get more. It's a constant struggle as opposed to once they get everything they want, they quit anyways. Your P versus P's, your PKs, they always play. And if the people who want to get stuff have no place to go but dungeons that are kind of frequented, the good guys get together and will fight us. Now most good guys can go and hide.
Exactly, and you know, I think me and you share, you know, the same concept of how they should have went about trammel and everything if they were to go and introduce something like that. For example, like a little safe region or something like you kind of alluded to and everything. A safe region, yeah, that would have probably been a better way to go about it. You know, maybe make a city like Minnock safe for miners or something like that. If you wanted to be like a miner and you wanted to mine in safety, you pretty much already had that, but it didn't cover the whole entire mines in Minnock. But the only drawback would be is that just about everybody and their brother would be there. You know, I want to know what you feel about a pre shard disco Dan.
I mean, I think we'd all play it. I think everybody's kind of requested it over the years, and you know, everybody's played the player-run shards that are up for about, I don't know, 6 months, and then they just wipe everything, and it was a complete waste of time. But I mean, that was probably the most fun that everybody's collectively had, where it was just a steady, you know, groups against groups, and nothing was completely overbalanced. You know what I mean? Everybody kind of had about the same templates and that sort of thing, but it was just, you know, it was just different groups of people going after everybody else, which was cool. It was definitely cool.
Yeah, I totally agree and everything. And the next question I'm going to follow up with is actually to why you guys think maybe EA hasn't already capitalized on something like this already. Go ahead, Ed.
Well, I mean, one thing I'm going to tell you is that back then, one of the coolest things that ever went was the good guy guilds versus the bad guy guilds. And the good guy guilds would go and help newbies. They would protect them. That was fun. I mean, now they just took a lot of the good guys versus bad guys. Now, you know, a guy in Trammel, just because he's blue doesn't mean he's not a bad guy. They may get in your party and wait for your stuff to drop and take everything. I mean, you know it happens. I mean, back then, red, bad. Blue, good. Stay away from it. And, you know, I think the biggest reason why OSI can't capitalize on this, they have to admit that a lot of people don't like the changes they made to the game. Most people just wanted them to fix bugs. They wanted to, you know, if you introduce something, finish it. You know, I've always said virtues. They start the virtues. It's been 5, 6 years, 6, 7 years. They're still not finished with it. You know, they start one thing. They're not. You start tweaking a P versus P template. They do. Not completing things irritating. Necromancy was supposed to be out in the first 2 years of the game. It got pushed back a long time. It's, you know, if they revert something like that openly, they'd have to open, and the amount of people love that game, they'd pretty much have to say, yeah, we're not good programmers if nobody wants any of the changes we've made.
Yeah, so you think it's pretty much a pride issue for EA then, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if you made some new, if you made some, if you wrote a book and then you made a couple of sequels, and everybody says, would you throw away those? You know, kind of. Now I think it's kind of like George Lucas. If everybody said to George Lucas, hey, throw away your new 3 movies. We only like the original 3. Those suck. I just want to look at those. That might kind of insult him, you know. Same way it kind of insults OSI that we think most of what they've done has been crap. I mean, there are some nice ideas, but most of it's just really piss people off.
Yeah. Well, you know, do you think they ought to just, you know, basically like start over from wherever they started and basically, you know, take things that were successful and didn't really contradict the other thing, or let's say, for example, you know, the whole pet bonding and stuff like that, where, you know, you wouldn't be able to raise your pets. You know, if you think they took out the bad things that either, you know, contradicted something else or ruined something else in the game, do you think they ought to just start over again and then maybe take the things that were good for the game and leave out the bad things? Go ahead, Ed.
I don't think they can start over. I think they can fix things. I think they can start, you know, remapping Trammell to make it look like a completely different area so that people look at it as another land, you know, instead of thinking it over here. That's the big, because it's just the biggest contention I've ever had of the game is that Trammell. And making it more of a, you know, making all the resources much lower. You know, and you know, the thing with shrinking the world size has got bigger and the player base has stayed roughly, give or take, the same, depending on how many people quit and join. But, you know, back you used to see a lot of people around the game. Now you just don't see a lot of people. You could walk around. Who walks on the paths anymore? Nobody. Every once in a while you find somebody walking there. Most of the people there are usually scripting, mining, and lumberjacking. So it's, you know, I like the better with a smaller world. You force people to have more interaction and help each other. And then you have bad guys like me. That was my job. I was the bad guy, and it was nice when you had the good guys fighting a bad guy. And you can't really start over and go back. But what they can do is try and shrink the world, find out which world is most useless, like Ishnar, most useless probably. Nobody really can, or everything in Ishnar you can use someplace else, or only allow certain classes to travel to it so that it's not, you know, so that everybody can just run out there. So everybody can have their own little server space and farm. Make people interact, work together, or be attacked. Don't let everybody go off on their own and accumulate as much wealth as possible, and then come to Luna to spend it all.
Yeah. Okay, well, you know, I do appreciate you guys answering my questions honestly and everything. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Sakura. We're quickly running out of time and everything. We're actually running over our time, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Sakura so she can finish asking the last few questions. Go ahead, Sakura.
Alrighty, thank you. Actually, geez, sorry, I'm choking in real life. My last question to you guys would be, I guess, in the long run, that's my usual question, where would you guys like to see your guild, and do you have any, you know, grand plans for the future, or do you just plan on keep on as much as possible to keep control of CHAMPS pawns on your shard? Yes, Sadis, go ahead.
Well, I can't speak for our guild master, who is, you know, not here, but I do know that we wish to maintain the control that we have, maintain the type of market scroll pricing control, PvP control over the spawns areas, and maintain our reputation that can span across all different shards. We'd also like to go to the next shard and make the same reputation there and have the same type of following. I know that I think our guild master wants to have more involvement from like Stratix, maybe have some sort of endorsement, something like that, become, you know, a more widely known guild across all the shards. Eventually, I think that's his long-term or part of the long-term goals, and I'd like to see that happen myself.
So basically, you would like your guild to be present on every single shard kind of thing? Yes, Ed?
Well, yes. Ideally, we'd love to rule every shard. That is almost unfeasible just because there'd be enough people who probably would want to take us down. But to take over 3, 4, you know, take over all the East Coast shards, that would be a nice start in the future. You know, as you know, we make movies about, you know, I make movies and helping Dan make movies about what we do and just jokes about it. We're just trying to, we just want people know about the elite guild of Chesapeake. We're trying to move on to another one. It's, we got, like I told you, that ratio. We have that many people that you cannot possibly kill them as fast as they're rezzing. It's hard, but it takes a while, and you will break them. And hopefully we'll start, Great Lakes is the one we're working on. And if we make it there, we'll move on to Catskills or Atlantic and just work on the East Coast for now.
Oh boy, you come to Atlantic, you will have a lot of people waiting for you, since we're a little frustrated about EFL decided not to come. So, well, if you ever do come to Atlantic, there should be some serious action going on. But that concludes my questions for this interview. I guess one last question I can ask you guys before I ask you to make your parting comments would be, would any one of you care to give the website address of the CHAMPS Guild if people want to read more about you guys or watch your crazy movies, Ed, or if they want to apply for your guild, if one of you guys want to give the website address.
Suppose that'll be me. But it's www.uo, then champs.com. Just UOCHAMPS.com. And yeah, we do our little flash movies from I've been working on for a long time. And pretty much, if you want to join us, it's not like you apply in the message board and you say, okay, well, right now. The best way is just rate us at spawns, fight us at you. We may deride you until we actually, we start admiring you. So that's pretty much the way it works. I mean, Sadis was an enemy for a long time before he became a champ member, and now he's one of the guild leaders. So it's not like it's, we say, oh no, they're new. You make it important.
Alrighty. So do you guys have any parting words before we leave? Ed?
I like to say this go first.
Well, bring it on, because I enjoy making dead people. Bring it on.
So charming. Dan, any last words?
Nah, nothing here.
Okay, well, I want to thank you guys for joining us today for this interview, and I want to thank all the listeners that joined in and the people that were with us in IRC. It was the CHAMPS Guild from Chesapeake, and this just a reminder for to everyone, there will be no guild interview this Friday, but we will be back with interviews on Sunday, and then back to normal schedule Fridays and Sundays the week after that. And so this upcoming Sunday we will be interviewing the Hot Guild from Atlantic. So you guys definitely want to be there. I have a feeling this one is going to be very heated. So once again, thank you very much to Ed McManus, Sadist, and Cool Disco Dan from the CHAMPS Guild of Chesapeake. And we will talk to you guys, well, not the guys from CHAMPS, but to, all you listeners out there, we will talk to you again very soon. Take care, everyone.
Come to Chess.
Thanks for having us.